if a young person like me wanted to start a business, how do I even think about funding it someday?
Find something that you feel you want to solve for. If you build something that's a compelling story, funding will chase you.
So what is your advice to young people about money?
Money is very important. Money is what makes me sleep 2 hours at night, keeps me motivated. Money buys happiness.
What's some $1 million advice for young girls like me?
Send that email. It's going to take you 5 minutes.
And after going to Harvard, how important do you think it is to go to a top university, given all the access to information we have through AI?
Find something that you're good at and go at it. Make it your DNA, make it something that you stand for.
If you lost everything and had to start again at 17 with today's tech and internet and access, what would you do?
The one thing I do like to share is
today's guest is someone who proves that the world of leadership, finance, and global impact isn't just about numbers, but about bold moves, clear vision, and building bridges across continents. Ms. Fariha Ansari Javed is currently a partner at Stride Ventures, one of India's leading venture debt funds, where she also heads investor relations globally. But her story doesn't stop there. She began her career at Wall Street and has led roles across insurance, startups, and impact platforms. She's also a Harvard Business School alum and someone who's passionate about helping companies grow with a purpose. As a 17-year-old who's just starting to explore the world, I'm super excited to talk to someone who's literally worked across 4 continents and handles billion-dollar decisions. So let's dive into the journey of someone who's truly global and deeply grounded. Thank you so much and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's actually a real pleasure to be here. This is my first podcast.
So oh, really? I'm honored.
Yes.
So to kick things off, it'd be great if you could just give a short introduction about yourself to the audience so that they know what to expect from this conversation.
Thanks, Kimaya. I'm Fariha and I'm a partner at Stride Ventures. I head global capital formation. I've been working for about 24 years, so you know how old I am now. I just gave away my age. I started my career in the early 2000s, post 9/11 in New York on Wall Street. I was an underwriter. My undergrad was in quant economics, and I wanted to be an actuary. I don't know very many people who want to be an actuary, but I really did. And at AIG, they said, no, I think you belong in front of the clients rather than behind a desk. So did about a decade of oil rigs and pipelines and underwriting and reinsurance, which I truly loved. About 6-7 years ago, I moved more permanently to India. I did back and forth for a while. And I joined Stride about 2.5 years ago because I truly feel I found my purpose and calling, which is fundraising. I really enjoy capital formation, and Stride's given me the opportunity for doing that not just in India but also globally. So I head that function across our funds.
Awesome. And before we jump into big roles, how are you really feeling today and what's keeping you excited lately?
Wow, I think I'm quite active on Instagram, especially on the stories. Not so much with my posts are like quite random, but the one thing I do like to share is my travel, right? The fact that I'm traveling, I'm sleeping for 2 hours and I'm still waking up and being present because that's what's keeping me going, right? That inertia. So that's how I'm feeling today. I saw a meme on, somebody after 8 hours of sleep versus 2 hours of sleep, 3 coffees and ready to go. I could not feel better. I feel I have a pep today. So that's how I'm feeling today.
And working in so many countries, is there a place that has shaped you the most or like a city that you call home?
New York. It would always be New York. I think that is for anyone who's spent either 1 year there or their entire life in New York. It really shaped me. I moved to the city. I started visiting the city in the 90s. I moved there in the 2000s, and it was the first place that I had to manage my own accounts, my apartments, my utilities. It was truly a place that shaped me both as who I am today and as well as work hygiene. I think Wall Street really teaches you that you have to bring your A game every single day. There's no sort of lull, there's no rest. It's competitive. You have to really bring a lot of discipline and focus and constantly just surround yourself with excellence because you're only as good as the people that you surround yourself with. So I think that I would say Wall Street shaped me, and New York is the place I still call home.
Yeah, New York is an amazing city. I was there in 23 summer, I think, and I had like so much fun.
Fun.
So what's like your best experience from New York, like your best memory?
My best memory would be walking every day. I took the metro the subway every single day to Wall Street. And I walked down from the Wall Street station down to 72 Wall Street to the office. My best memories are grabbing that bagel, sometimes being almost on a diet sometimes, just grabbing a cup of coffee, walking down, having that crisp air and feeling that I'm ready to conquer my day. That's more of a daily memory. And it's an emotion, right? New York is an emotion.
Yeah.
I would actually also say the wins, business wins. Earning exceptional amount of money has been something that you can do in New York and you can do on Wall Street. And I think that it's a big priority. People feel uncomfortable talking about money, but it's a priority. It buys you freedom, it buys you independence, it buys you whatever you want. And I think that that's been a really important part of who I am today. My best memories are getting my bonus checks.
So how did you figure out what you were good at?
It happened very organically. It happened in college because I started figuring out what classes I wanted to do. And I started moving into quant. So Calculus 1, Calculus 2, I enjoyed it. Okay, I started doing economics. Parents were very happy. They were like, yes, good girl, you should be doing that, drop all of this, painting 101 and Zen and Japanese culture, those courses you should drop. And so it happened very organically. I really enjoyed numbers. My role at AIG happened by accident. In the early 2000s, I applied to be an analyst. And I got the role at AIG as an analyst. And it lasted for only a couple of weeks because there was a massive restructure. And AIG very quickly needed people to be in the underwriting team. They snatched me up. Normally, it takes you about 3 years to be an underwriter. But this was like drinking from the fire hose, and it was an opportunity I could not pass. It was a paycheck I couldn't pass. It was exposure that I couldn't pass. They put me on a plane. I was getting to travel, and very quickly I moved from the analyst actuary side onto the underwriting side. So it happened to me. I didn't plan it, but it was exceptional. It really was. Yeah.
Was this related to the housing
bubble?
Was this related to the housing crisis?
No, this was actually pre that. So the housing bubble was in 2008. I should have bought a lottery ticket. My move from AIG to Zurich, Zurich Insurance, was September 2008. I'd already negotiated that from May to September. It takes you a while to transition when you're in a leadership role. And the AIG and housing bubble crash, all of that happened in August. And there was a higher power watching over me because I could not have planned or timed this any better because I had negotiated preferential terms. I had gotten in on my own terms. I'd competed with Zurich for 5 years before that. So they had known my name on a lot of transactions. And so I actually was able to ride the wave from AIG and move to Zurich fairly comfortably. This particular role was during an investigation that was ongoing early, sort of late 90s that then trickled into 2000s, where one day, the chairman of AIG sort of moved on and took an entire team with him. And that created a void and a gap, and I got the role within 3 weeks of starting. So my journey in AIG was an adventure, but it was a different time, earlier, 8 years prior.
So what exactly is venture debt? Because I hear about VC and funding, but how is debt different?
Debt is completely different. So venture debt has been around for about 40 years, more so in the US. In India, it's been around for about 15 odd years. Stride is the largest debt fund, venture debt fund and provider to the startup lender to the startup ecosystem in India. Venture debt is non-dilutive equity. I'll explain it very simply. Okay. If there's an equity investor, and Kimaya, you have a business, when they give you money, they own a part of your business, right? So they're giving you money for an ownership stake. Debt is different. Debt is a loan. There are warrants that are usually very small, minute amounts, which it does result into an equity sort of ownership of sorts into your business. But debt is a loan, right? So it really helps companies to find ways to keep raising rounds and expanding, meeting their milestones, doing acquisition, doing capex, doing operational sort of working capital requirements. Debt is that. Debt is a loan.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's debt is flexibility. That's what venture debt is. And venture debt is plain and simple. It's loans to the startup ecosystem. So venture capital funded businesses get venture debt. And banks don't. Usually banks are like, do you have revenue? This is an idea. This is, asset light. So it takes a bit of time for banks to then enter into this particular comfort zone where they want to provide you with loans. This is largely where SEBI regulated, Cat 2 AIFs can come in and provide that ease of loans. So
I see.
yeah.
So if a young person like me wanted to start a business, how do I even think about funding it someday?
Oh man. Firstly, the universe is your oyster, right? We have seen exceptional founders who are very young, who've really taken on the world. And Zepto is one such example where he's really made an impact. I would actually say find something that you feel you want to solve for, right? So first is finding something you want to solve for. The second would be find that purpose that you want to sort of have deep rooted within. Without purpose, you won't have a compelling story. You won't feel motivated to be part of that company, right? So find an issue that you want to solve for, and within that, a purpose, right? So whether that's climate, whether that's finance, whether that's solving for access to finance, whether that's consumer, it could be beauty, color cosmetics, but find that niche and then a deeper purpose within that.
Yeah.
Access to sort of funding, that follows. If you build something that's a compelling story, funding will chase you. It'll be the opposite. You won't have to raise a penny. It will come find you. That's what really separates businesses, right? Who's able to curate that story and sell that dream, sell that purpose. I think that's what separates good, well-funded businesses and not so well-funded businesses.
So how do you decide which one you think is valuable to fund in?
Debt is a bit different, right? Obviously, we do look at companies. Our criteria are very different. So venture debt usually comes in after there's one round of institutional equity. So say there's a large private equity or venture capital fund that's already given you equity. We would then say, this is inspiring confidence. They're seeing some value. We'll come in, we'll examine the business. And it has to make sense. Debt. Why are you taking that debt?
Yeah.
Right? Are you doing it for your operational expenses? Because you don't want to take money that someone's given you for ownership and then make sure that that's what you're doing for keeping the lights on, right?
Yeah.
Because then that will run out. You'll raise again. Someone else will own more of your company and more of your company.
Yeah.
So you want to take loans. You want to take loans for that. Use cases of debt is very important. What is Kimaya taking the debt for, right? Is she taking it because she wants to acquire, another business? That makes sense. That makes sense for debt. So we'll always examine what's the use case. And then you have to be a company that's, doing certain thresholds of revenue. You should be able to pay that debt as well. So, there are sort of criteria. There's no cookie cutter. Debt is, especially at Stride, we're very nimble. We sit with founders, we want to build with them, we want to grow with them, and we've been with them throughout their journey. So that's what we look for, the story and the use.
Have there been cases where companies have used it incorrectly?
There have been. There always has been, right? I think with the debt, we get off easy. We're around in the companies for 18 to 24 months. So it's shorter amount, right? As opposed to equity that's around for a longer amount of time. You're able to see early warning signals. So, Kimaya, if I've given you a loan, you have to pay me back every quarter. Now, if you're not able to do that in, say, 6 months, I have an alarm bell that goes off already. Right? So I might just, ask you to prepay that loan. So it's fairly easy for us Globally, for this asset class, the write-offs or the non-performing has been less than 1%. So, at least venture debt, there's a lot more perceived risk. Oh, these are tricky companies. These are asset light. I don't know if you'll be able to recover. Is my money safe? But I fundraise for the funds. So I have to truly believe in what I am selling to then put my neck on the line and say, no, what I'm selling you is truly safe. What I'm underwriting in Kimaya's company is truly safe. So it takes a lot.
And you've led in industries where women are still underrepresented. So have you ever doubted yourself, and how did you push through?
All the time. All the time. I think very early on, I had some really exceptional women mentors. They taught me a couple of things that I now pay forward. Very proud to say I have an all-women team. I have a 4-member all-women team. I feel that women have a bias for action. And nothing against our lovely male counterparts, but I want to pay it forward. Very early on, I learned a couple of things. One, which is don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness, right? You're not coming from a bad place. You're not trying to do something that's wrong, right? So stop thinking that you need permission. Just do it. Roll up your sleeves and do it. Don't ask for any permission. That's how you're going to get a seat at the table. And the second is progress over perfection. As women, we want to make sure that everything is perfect, right? Things that I learned very early on is send that email. It's going to take you 5 minutes. Send that email. Work will expand to fit the time allotted. If you give yourself an hour to do that email versus 5 minutes, the output will be the same, right? Just send the email. Don't think twice. Send it. Fine, you have a typo in it. You're human, right? You're not a machine. You're not a you're not a bank sending out emails, right? It's different. So, progress over perfection and forgiveness over permission. 2 things. By the way, my team uses that against me as well. So,
And what's some $1 million advice for young girls like me who want to break into finance, tech, or leadership?
Oh man. Find something that you're good at and go at it. Just make it your DNA, make it something that you stand for. I think that, at HBS, they talk a lot about purpose. They talk a lot about authenticity. And, early on, I was like, okay, I paid a lot for this. But I do imbibe that now. And I look for that in people as well. I look for authenticity. If there's someone who's inauthentic, that gets under my skin, right? Then I would probably write off that person. If I find that that person doesn't really have a deep purpose, I don't know if we would necessarily get along, right? I think the advice that I have for that 17-year-old or for myself if I was 17 is be daring. Just be bold, be daring, just do what you want to do, and the results will follow. You can't control the outcome, but you can control your actions. You can control what you do with your time, your day, your hours, your voice. That's all you control. You'll see the results, but you control what you can do.
So what is your advice to young people about money, and how do you think we should think about it?
Oh, wow. Money is very important. Money is what makes me sleep 2 hours at night, keeps me motivated. Money buys happiness. I don't know who's, lied in the past and said that it's not, or there's thresholds for it, but I don't believe that. It buys you options. It buys you freedom. It buys you so much more. It'll also buy you comfort, right? The more money you make, the more comfort you surround yourself with. It buys you productivity as well. It buys you access. The advice I have for young people is be frugal, save. Whether it's $5 or it's 100, saving in retrospect is going to be your friend. It really is going to be your friend. Don't be afraid to ask for a big amount. Whether it's a negotiating table and you're speaking to an investor, or whether you're at a company and you're speaking to your boss, fight. Ask for more, don't leave money on the table. Do not leave money on the table. Keep fighting for more. You're worth more. And yeah, I think money is very, very important. That's my advice. So, yeah.
And if you lost everything and had to start again at 17 with today's tech and internet and access, what would you do? Or what would you do different?
So, I was at that age and stage where we didn't have tech and access, right? I mean, sorry, we had tech, but not to the level that it is now. So a lot of the actuarial science work that I've done in the past has been on Excel sheets with pivot tables. And, that was my sort of way of, churning numbers. With today's technology and data, as a 17-year-old, I would strategize differently. Data would be my friend. I would use that to make sure I can identify certain service gaps, find a purpose, find probably a product that I feel had a niche market, and build something on my own. I would 100%, because I feel that I definitely have the ability to fundraise. I'm doing that professionally. I've done that for a while now. But I would love, as a 17-year-old, if I had the ability to time travel and go back, to build something and have the beauty of technology that exists today to enable me in that journey. So I would definitely do that differently.
And how were you in school at that age? Like, how were you?
Man, we alluded to it a little while ago. I mean, you know my age by now. So I went to school at a time in India where there was no question. It was one-way knowledge transfer, right? So from the educator to the student. When I moved to the US in the 90s, it took me a while. I struggled as a student in undergrad because classes were about discourse. And discourse is not something that was taught in India in the 80s and the 90s, right? Early 90s. It was not. It was one-way knowledge transfer. I was a great student. I scored 92% in my board exams,
Wow.
very proud. But then, I was an absolute failure when it came to my undergrad, because my professor would ask me a question about my opinion, and I was like, I'm entitled to an opinion? You want to hear about what I have to say? And so I think that was a very difficult time for me in undergrad to then break through and say, how do I feel about this? How do I feel about geopolitics or anthropology or, that in certain courses? And it took me a while in college to break through that mold and say, okay, this is discourse. So it took me a while. By the time I graduated, I think that my professors had enough of the discourse. I did fairly well. But that was a big change, which I see in today's school. My daughter goes to an IB, and I feel that now there is a dialogue. Yeah. It's not, sort of educator versus student, where I give you a book, you read it, you regurgitate it and hold whatever's in it as gospel, right? You can question it now. So that's been a big change, and that's what I was like. And very candidly, that's what I was, a great student, as in, I think my memory was amazing. But, when I moved to the US, they were like, this is not what we call top tier.
And do you think that shaped you a lot as a person? Like, how different do you think you would have been if you stayed in India instead?
Absolutely. Moving away from family in the 90s, being a South Asian on Wall Street, I think all of that really shaped me, managing my own finances, not having, I had pocket money. I wouldn't say I was uncomfortable by any means, but at the same time, it really shaped me. It really shaped me to be aware, being alert, being, particular about the people I surrounded myself with, and then knowing my limits, right, as well, and being comfortable in my own skin. I think I got very comfortable in my own skin very early on. I didn't feel the need to sort of chase or be different or inauthentic. I got fairly lucky with surrounding myself with people that like me for me, and build meaningful relationships and friendships, and yeah.
And after going to Harvard, how important do you think it is to go to a top university, given all the access to information we have through AI?
There's nothing that will ever replace a university. I joined the HBS alumni board in 2018, and so it's fantastic to have that access to the university and really be at the forefront of innovation. A lot of professors saw the disruption that AI would cause coming along, right? And so they started developing ways and thoughts and discourse and dialogues around how do you use AI, but you have to keep that human intervention as well. I think to your first point, HBS for me was transformational. It really was an inflection point in my career. To your second point, it is very important to still be part of a top-tier university. When I'm hiring and I'm recruiting for talent, I do look at CVs. I am old school. I look at CVs. I want to see what rigor you've been put through by a top-tier university, and that will give you an edge. It'll continue to. There's no replacing that. But obviously, we have certain disruptors and exceptional minds that come from all backgrounds. But conventionally, there's no replacing a top-tier university at all. And there won't be. That won't be the, it won't happen. It won't be disrupted for another, century.
And after being in that environment, is there a habit or mindset that you wish you had built earlier in life?
Yes. I think I don't recenter myself as much as I would have liked to. I think I get to be on campus every 6 months, surround myself by people who are really changing the world, doing great work, brilliant minds, right? These are my fellow alumni, board members, meet the professor, and it makes me recenter. It makes me introspect a bit and think about where am I going, what am I doing, what's my purpose, am I doing this correctly, where do I see myself in a few years, what have I done? I wasn't doing that. So New York, you get sucked up. You're like you get sucked up. It's a bit of a hamster wheel, and you forget to take a step back and revisit your quarter, your year. You don't end up doing that. I do that a lot more now. I wish I had imbibed that a lot more in my early years. Because then I would be a little better in strategizing around my life that I am now. So I've gotten a lot better at recentering myself every couple of months.
And finally, for every girl listening who wants to do something bold but is afraid of failure, what would you say to her?
What I truly believe in, right? Don't ask for permission. Ask for forgiveness. You may not even need it, right? That's the most important. And it's progress, right? Don't be a perfectionist. Just keep moving forward. And there's no true failure. Things that I thought were failures of sorts, which made me feel absolutely gutted, deals that didn't work out, things that just didn't work out professionally for me, they were just stepping stones, right?
Yeah.
When you retrospect, everything is 2020. That needed to happen for me to then be where I am now, right?
Yeah.
It's something that you have to be easy on yourself. Don't be hard on yourself. And if you think of failure that I'm scared to fail, you probably will, right? You have to just keep thinking about it in a very positive mindset. So that's my 2 cents to the women.
Thank you so much for joining me. And this conversation has been such an eye-opener for me, and also I hope for all young girls watching who also dream big. And your story really proves that you can begin anywhere, Wall Street, Delhi, or Turkey, and still build something that changes lives, industries, and even countries. So thank you for making time for this conversation. And to everyone listening, stay curious and stay bold, and never be afraid to ask the big questions. I'm Kimaya, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me.